Welcome back to the Tool for Forza YouTube channel. Captain Nasty's here, and today I'm going to do a quick overview of Content Manager and some of the little things that are a little bit more tricky on Content Manager that we seem to get a lot of questions about. I'm also going to discuss two different ways to mod Assetto Corsa, one using Content Manager and one that doesn't. And so let's just jump right in here. First of all, I'm not going to cover how to install Content Manager. There's lots of other good YouTube videos on that. It's pretty straightforward. But once you're in here, there's a whole heck of a lot of different menus and things like that. So I'm going to cover the important stuff and the stuff that's a little bit tricky that we seem to get the most questions about. So first of all, there's kind of two different main areas here. These menus on the upper right and the upper left. So again, single player, challenges, that's for factory Kunos stuff that no one really messes with. Live, this is how you get into a sim racing system, which is ranked matchmaking for Assetto Corsa. It's absolutely phenomenal. I highly recommend this app. This comes pre-installed with Content Manager, but you do need to sign up, so I'd highly recommend doing that. SRS is a ton of fun. And then lastly here, online, this is how you actually go find servers. So let me just cover this really quick here. So to find just normal servers, you click Kunos here, and this will pull up everything. Arrange, sort by drivers here. And that way you can see populated servers and choose a server that there's other people racing with. It's kind of an important thing if you're going to go online. There's other people around. Also, make sure that you either do or don't have these things checked here. This can limit the amount of servers you see. Obviously, if something has a password and you don't know it, then uncheck that. Same with missing, so make sure that's all set up correctly. I recommend adding servers to favorites. So if you just go down here and click favorite, it'll add to favorites. Then you can just go right here, and then you'll see a bunch of your favorite stuff come up, which is really great. You can also search. So this little hourglass here is very important. So you can just search and press enter, and the servers will populate. One other thing too is if you search for a server and you know that you're searching for the right thing, you don't see it, hit this little circle down here, this refresh button. This will refresh the server list on the left side. If a server has, if you've been away from a while and you've already got a server highlighted and you want to keep track of what cars are available, hit this refresh button right here, and that will just refresh the server itself over here, not the whole server list. So two different little tricky things there that we'll call out. So that pretty much covers getting online with Content Manager and using SRS. For next, let's just talk about our settings over here. So there's a bunch of different settings, tabs in the settings folder. So you can see there's stuff for Content Manager here. Not going to go over any of those right now. There's the stock Assetto Corsa stuff. So I'll touch on this really quickly here. So you'll see your video settings. Again, tons of videos on how to do, set up your video settings correctly. Totally depends on what your computer system and, if you're using VR or not. But my recommendation here is save presets. So you click save preset. Now when I use VR, I have a preset. Now this is for watching replays and taking pictures. I have another preset. So definitely take advantage of save preset, especially if you're testing stuff out and doing all that. Another important one here, we'll touch on controls really quickly. So I'll show you my force feedback settings. These are very subjective, but since I'm here, I'll show you where this stuff is at. So it's over here in force feedback in the right. You click controls here in the Assetto Corsa tab, then it brings you here. Go to force feedback, it takes you here. Gain, I run mine at 80%. That's just to keep it from clipping. I have a Fanatec CSL, but the game can just put out too much information, and it doesn't matter what wheel you have. It'll be indicating that you're clipping in game, and then you want to turn this gain setting down. I'll show you how to determine that once we're actually in game and looking at some other stuff here. You can see filter 0, minimum force is 5. For effects, for curb effects, I have that at 35. For road effect, I have that at 15. So curb effect is really like rumble strips and things like that. It doesn't happen all that often. I definitely like that at 35. For road effect, as you crank this up, you're going to feel larger and larger effects for bumps and textures and things like that. And I have base shakers on my rig, so that is one motivation for turning this down. But even if I didn't, I'd probably have this set pretty low, just because for me, I really want to feel what the car is doing, what the tires are doing, as it relates to car behavior, not so much road effect. But you do want a little bit of that. For slip effect, I have this at 0. Slip effect is essentially just makes your wheel vibrate when you're spinning your tires, which I don't find useful at all. Same thing with ABS. It feels like ABS in a real car, which is pretty useless. I do like enhanced understeer effect, and soft lock is really great. Assetto Corsa does a really fantastic job of assigning cars with specific degrees of rotation, and it works really well. If you have the soft lock, you'll know where the actual steering lock is, so I definitely recommend these settings. I've got about 500 hours on Assetto Corsa here, so definitely some testing time. So here's where you can actually select, your input devices. If you want to assign something, you just click it here, and then you touch the input device, and it'll assign it just like anything else. One quick thing for pedals, they typically need to have the inverted box here checked in Content Manager. So I think that is the big stuff in terms of content. Oh, let's take a look at audio here as well. So you can see I've got my master turned all the way down to 10, and this is because I like to have be able to hear people in chat. And if this thing is turned up much at all, the game is way louder than chat. So kind of a funny thing with Assetto Corsa, run this master down at like 10 or 20, and it's playing loud. Of course, I have my tires turned up louder than everything else, pretty much. My surface turned up as well. I like to really hear what the tires are doing. That definitely helps a lot. And then for tire offset, this is kind of a cool one. Essentially, this determines when the tire starts to protest, and I tested this both at less than 100 and greater than 100, and I just think 100 is really good. Assetto Corsa is pretty phenomenal with the tire sounds, and I found 100 to be my preferred setting. But play with this for sure. It actually can help provide you some different information on what the tire's doing. The next thing we're going to cover is how to set up a single race, and once we do that, then we'll jump into some of the apps that are actually in-game and go through some cool things there. So this is what it looks like when you're setting up a race for single player. It's pretty straightforward. You click here to pick a car, right? Same thing here for the track. Now if you've got shaders patch and soul enabled, you want to be careful to check specific data. If you pick in the wintertime, a lot of tracks will be like snow on the ground. They'll look kind of crazy, which is cool, but I see a lot of questions about, oh, why is there snow on the ground? Well, you have to click specific date there. So one thing that's not straightforward here is how to build. Let's say that you pick a car and you want to have similar cars that are in the same class. What you do is you check this right here. It says custom, and it opens up this box, and see where it says random here? I don't know why it says random, because it's definitely not random. So you can pick same brand in class, same era in class, same power to weight ratio, same subclass only, same racing class. A lot of these sound the same, and it just depends on how a mod is made and kind of labeled, and typically one of these settings will add cars in that are all in the same class. So you'll see over here I had set up previously a race in the DRM Revival cars, and I wanted to have a variety of those without having to go through and pick one individually, so I just went ahead and did that. So do that. Of course, make sure your number of opponents can be set, your starting position, all this good stuff here, strength and aggression, and the rest of it. That's all pretty straightforward. So we're going to jump in here and drive, talk about a couple apps, and then I'm going to cover modding in just another couple minutes here. Of course, that's an important and exciting topic with Assetto Corsa, and there's two different ways to mod Assetto Corsa. We'll cover both of them and kind of the upsides and downsides of doing it both of those different ways. So let's talk about apps, why this thing is loading real quick. I highly recommend getting a few third-party apps for Assetto Corsa. The first one is Corsa. It's that radar app that you can visualize where cars are around you that you maybe are in your blind spot. Super helpful, especially in SRS races. I also really recommend the Setup Market, and I'll show you a quick demo of that once we get rolling here and we're actually in the race. But Setup Market is a place where you can essentially upload and download tunes, and it's really great. So on the left here, we've got some different things. This is how you quit. This will show you who's in the race. It also will show you some chat. Telemetry, really nifty here. Lap times. This is how you actually go in and tune. I'm going to do a video on tuning Assetto Corsa soon, so come check us out again for that. And then this is how we select drive. So in order to actually get to these apps, you have to check the drive button, which is kind of funny, and it throws a heck of a lot of people off. So over here in the right hand side, you can see all these different apps over here, and it's nice you can hide them all right there, which is a really cool thing if you go for full on immersion, don't have the apps in your way. So you have an app that will show you your tire temperature. That's a really good one when you're tuning a car. So here's sound. You can adjust the sound right in the game. You don't have to back out or anything like that. Super nice. Here's a really good, so force feedback control. This is where you can set a force feedback profile for each individual car. You do it and then you just click save, and it actually will load every time automatically. You use the car. Super handy, and not totally required on Assetto Corsa because force feedback is damn good, but it just for adjusting the overall gain setting. So how do you know when to adjust the gain setting? Good question. So right here you can see our 4 little bars here, and this bar right here, when you're driving, you'll see a gray bar moving up and down, and that's actually the amount of force feedback output. If you see the bar go to the top, it actually turns red. You know that you have force feedback clipping. So turn on this little app with the 3 little pedals, and it'll actually help you tune your force feedback. If you're seeing a lot of red, for more than a very, very, very short period of time, and it's if it's consistently up in the red around big corners, turn down your force feedback gain to keep it from clipping. That'll improve the fidelity of your force feedback, which is really important. Another thing I'll touch on while I'm in here, render stats. Really cool. So when you're tuning your graphic settings, of course you want to maximize the amount of eye candy you can get, but you can't hit your frame rate. So this is how you monitor your frame rate. And there is a benchmark program in Assetto Corsa, but I, with shaders, patch, and soul, and kind of all these different things, I tend to actually tune in what I call the real-world environment when it comes to graphic settings. Real time. Let me move this. This is a super helpful one, so you can see who's around you, what the gap is. That's a really great app. Performance delta. This is one I typically have on too, so this will show you your lap time and kind of where real time how you're doing compared to your best lap. Really helpful there. Let's take a quick look at setup markets. So you can see here there's tunes already shared for this car. You can easily download them. That's nice. There's a rating system. You can also easily upload them here as well. So that's just a really cool thing. It's a third-party app. It's really easy to install, and that pretty much covers kind of a crash course into some of the more tricky and more common things that we get questions about in regards to Content Manager. It's the only way to run AC. If you run AC without Content Manager, I think that you're crazy. So let's talk about modding real quick. And I had downloaded a couple mods I was going to install real time, and my microphone got a little bit messed up. So I'm going to reinstall them here now, 2 different ways. So typically when you download a mod, if you use Chrome, in the lower left you'll see the zip files down here. But for the sake of this video and for people that don't have Chrome, we're going to go into our downloads folder, and I'm going to install 2 different mods right now, 2 different ways. So the first way I'm going to do it is what I'm going to call the old-fashioned way, and that's through going to the Assetto Corsa root folder and actually dragging the folder in manually. So this is the path that you're going to want to find to get to your Assetto Corsa root folder. This PC, C drive, program files, x86, Steam, Steam apps, common. Now in this common you're going to see all your games. And what we'll find here is that some mods you drag right into the root folder, and that's for mods that have what's called a content folder. I'll demonstrate that here in just a minute. And then for some mods without a content folder, you're actually going to need to open up this Assetto Corsa folder, go to content, and then if it's a car, you drag it into cars. If it's a track, you just drag it into tracks, and you're good to go. It's really easy, but it does take just a little bit of getting used to. So one thing before you do this, I actually make a shortcut for this, so I don't have to navigate through these folders every time. You can see I made a common shortcut right here on my desktop. So to do that, you just back out of Steam apps, right click and select common, and say create shortcut, and that'll put it on your desktop. It really makes this a lot faster and a lot easier. So let's go ahead and jump in here. So now I'm going to show you how to mod the old-fashioned way. So you open up the zip file here, and WinRAR is what most people use, but any compression program will work, and you'll see a folder here. So when you're installing these mods manually, you kind of got to poke around a bit. So let's open this up. So typically if you just see a car, you just drag it right into that cars folder I showed you, but let's open it up a little bit and see what we have here. Okay, see, this is an RSS mod, so there's a content folder. So most high quality mods use content folders. Instructions, we'll take a quick, copy the content folder. So I typically read these instructions. They typically say the same thing, but again, I'm kind of a nerd. So let's go ahead and do this. So this is a content folder. Drag it right into a Assetto Corsa root folder, and that's it. You're done installing the mod. That's the hard way to do it, and it's just that easy. So what you're going to see here is it's override. It's going to ask me if I want to override files because again, I'd already installed these mods. I did this vid previously. My microphone got a little bit screwed up and didn't sound very good, so I wanted to remake it. So you can see it here, overriding. Clearly I don't have a solid state drive because I'm a jabroni. So that's how you mod the old-fashioned way. And let me just walk you through. So if it didn't have a content folder, so let's say that you open up and this is what it looks like, right? Typically you might see something like this. So okay, is this a car? Is there a content folder? Let me open this thing up. Okay, you can see all these KN5 files and SFX skins texture. This is a dead giveaway that you're actually looking at the folder that you need to drag into the cars folder. So Assetto Corsa, content, and cars. So if this was a different mod where it just had a folder for the car, then you would highlight this and just drag it into cars. Same thing for tracks. If this was a track name, you open it up and it looked like this, you know that's the folder that you need to drag in, then to the tracks folder if it's a track, and then of course if it's a car, you drag it to cars. So that's the hard way to do it. Let me show you the easy way to do it here. And I tend to do things manually just because I've been doing it that way for a while, never had a problem. But there's no reason, at least that I know of, not to use Content Manager. Find our downloads here. All right. Now watch how easy this is. So then, go into downloads, you find that zip file. All you do is you literally just drag and drop it anywhere into Content Manager, and you'll see this little, see that box check up here? It says box, so it says one installing. Minimize that. Go ahead and click this. And typically right here, it would say install. You would just check install here. It's going to look just a little bit different than this, but you just check install, and then you're good to go. It's totally done. No reason for me to overwrite my files. And then if you want to just check, of course, you can go over here. Brands, I think they go under Race Sim Studio. That's, yeah, Formula Hybrid 19, there she is. And Formula Hybrid F2 car, there she is. So that's about it, guys. Really quick, modding Assetto Corsa is easy. Don't let it scare you, but if you want to do it the old-fashioned way, definitely open the folders and read how to install it. And I've had very good luck with that. I've never really installed too much stuff through Content Manager, but you can see, of course, that's one way to go too, and it's certainly a lot easier. I hope that was helpful. If you have any questions about how to do certain things in Content Manager, put them in the chat here underneath the video, and check out our community. We're a social sim racing club. We host events on Assetto Corsa and Forza Motorsport 7, and we're just trying to keep sim racing fun. It's really important to have a fun group of people to race with if you're going to really be into sim racing and enjoy it. Our driving is very clean in our group, and we just really have a good time, and that's what makes our group different from other groups. Thanks for checking us out, guys. We'll see you for the next one. Captain Nasty's over and out.